You're watching HuffPost Live. I'm Mike Sachs, and Satan may soon be making his way to Oklahoma. A New York-based Satanic Temple has proposed erecting a statue of its own near a Ten Commandments monument outside the state's Capitol building. On the face of it, this seems kind of like a far-fetched request, but if this satanic statue is not approved, that could imply maybe that the Oklahoma government is favoring one religion over the other. Joining us to discuss this request and the constitutional implications, we're joined by David Niosi. He is the president of the Secular Coalition of America. Lucien Greaves, spokesperson for New York's Satanic Temple. Leslie Griffin, professor of law at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And Lisa Shaw-Roy, associate professor of law at the University of Mississippi. So, Lucien, I want to go to you first, and I want to look at a comment here from one of our commenters, Foxy Shazam, saying, if the Satanists were serious, then they should be allowed, but more than likely, they're simply trying to create anger and offense. Thus, no, they should not get a statue. Hail, and I'm guessing he's a sympathizer with you. But, Lucien, are you just trolling Oklahoma here?
No, we absolutely do intend on putting a monument up, and we're not sure on what grounds it could possibly be rejected. I've seen a lot of naysayers saying that it isn't possible that we'll be approved. I don't see how it's possible that we couldn't be approved, and I think our monument alongside the Ten Commandments monument sends a strong and direct message, and that message is one more in line, I think, with our American values of inclusiveness and equality in the eyes of the law.
And what was the decision-making process for your temple to actually reach out to Oklahoma and try to put this monument, this statue, on the Capitol grounds?
Well, in Florida, there was a big hubbub about Ten Commandments monument, and atheists put one alongside. And we were apprised of the Ten Commandments monument in Oklahoma City by some of our membership there. And I think it's important that I establish up front that we do have standing in Oklahoma City, and that's part of the reason we went ahead to do this. We have a number of people willing to sign affidavits or whatever's required of them to attest that they are members of the Satanic Temple, and that therefore that representation is legitimate.
So you're saying standing, you mean you're actually looking to get a lawsuit out of this?
Oh, I just mean they have standing. We have standing to request a monument. We do represent a segment of the population in Oklahoma City.
Now, we did reach out to the Liberty Institute, that's the Christian firm defending the Oklahoma legislator's monument, and while no one from the firm was able to join us live, Hiram Sasser, its litigation director, provided this statement saying the satanic statue issue has nothing to do with the current case about the Oklahoma Ten Commandments. That monument is constitutional. It is an exact replica of the one that sits on the Texas state capitol grounds, which the U.S. Supreme Court upheld as constitutional in Van Orden v. Perry. It's a case from 2005. It would be bizarre if Texas can have its Ten Commandments monument, but Oklahoma cannot. The state of Oklahoma, however, does not have to accept. One moment. He has more. There's more to the statement here. Oklahoma, however, does not have to accept the donation of the satanic statue. The U.S. Supreme Court in Pleasant Grove City v. Summum, that's from 2009, in a unanimous decision, held that even though a city accepted privately donated monuments for permanent display, such as the Ten Commandments, the city was not required to accept for display the Summum religious group's 7 aphorisms of Summum for display. It is extremely rare for all 9 justices to agree on anything. However, they do agree that in situations such as this, the government has the discretion to choose which monuments it wants to accept. Now, Leslie, I want to go to you on that comment here. Is the counsel for the Liberty Group there actually right?
I mean, I think counsel for the Liberty Group has a good argument that the court in Summum said that this is government speech. It's not private speech, that the city adopted the monument and it's government speech. And so if this Oklahoma case is also government speech, then the Satanists would have a hard time winning. Now, interestingly enough, if this is government speech, there should be an Establishment Clause issue, right? Which the government can't prefer one religion to another. And in the Summum case, the district court, after the Supreme Court ruled, actually said that Summum, the city didn't know that Summum was a religion when it denied its request. And therefore, there could be no Establishment Clause violation. So I think it would be important for the Satanists to say, well, we want Oklahoma to know that we're a religion, right? That we're a religious group, because at least that sets up the possibility of an Establishment Clause challenge to a refusal.
And Lisa, what has me wondering? Oh yeah, please, Lucien, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me interrupt. It was the fact is, this is private speech. This was a private donation. It would be a private donation from us. It was also a private donation. The Ten Commandments monument was a private donation from Representative Mike Ritz. And that was the argument. So
but
I don't know if they're going to fluctuate.
the monuments in Summum were also privately donated. And the factual question, you all have a real factual question, right? Has Oklahoma adopted this? But the monuments in Summum were also at the beginning privately donated. So the case law leaves open the possibility that something that's privately donated can become government speech precisely because there's not a lot of room for everybody to put private monuments up.
Now, Lisa, my question to you here is, what ultimately do you think, if there's a lawsuit that comes out of this, what effect will it have on American church and state law? Could it be that because, at least if it goes to the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court skews rightward, both in terms of wanting to lower the wall between church and state, but also perhaps not being very positive toward the Church of Satan or any other Satanist group, that maybe, just maybe, the Supreme Court could say, could pull back on its commitment to more religion in society and would just blow everything up and say, sorry, if we can't have Satanists, we can't have Christians. I mean, what could be the case here that comes out of this particular instance?
Well, I mean, I think first I'd have to agree with Leslie on her observations about Summum, and I guess the quote that you sort of cited in the beginning, it seems to me that there's a very strong argument that the Ten Commandments monument is government speech, and so Oklahoma then would, as in Summum, have the right to reject the proposed monument simply because its speech can't be compelled. And so I think if that were the statement that were to come out of any particular legal action associated with the proposed monument, then I think there's no need to as you say, blow everything up or somehow change the standards. Or
I mean, could a court ultimately show its bias towards one religion or another by saying, perhaps as Leslie intimated, that no, this isn't really a religion. Christianity is a real religion, though, so they can do it. Sorry, Satanists, you can't. Is that at all a possible outcome?
Well, I suppose anything's within the realm of possibility. I don't think it's probable or likely. I think the court has shied away from sort of classifying religious groups in general. And so I think it's probably unlikely that the court would say, no, you're not a religion. I think the test generally has been sincerity.
Yeah.
And so, I think Mr. Greaves has already argued that they're sincere and that they have membership. And so their status as a religion, then I would think is established. I think one area where they might have some problem or run into some problems would be if there were, say, an Establishment Clause challenge then to the Satanic Monument. If there were an Establishment Clause challenge to the Satanic Monument, they would have to make some sort of a historical argument, and I'm not sure what that argument would be. I think what I've heard so far goes toward inclusion and pluralism, but not necessarily any sort of connection to, Western civilization or history or the community there. But if they were able to make that argument, then I think they could resist an Establishment Clause challenge.
And David, David, I want to get to you in a moment, but Lucien, I want to put that to you because HB 1330, which was the House bill in Oklahoma that established the Ten Commandments on the grounds, makes the argument that, and I'm reading here from it, the Ten Commandments represent a philosophy of government held by many of the founders of this nation, by many Oklahomans and other Americans today. And it goes on saying that really this is bedrock of our country's moral, ethical, political law. So if that's their grounding, could they distinguish that from what you're putting forward, what you're proposing as an educational monument or what have you on the Oklahoma grounds?
Well, I'm not proposing any argument, any monument myself.
No, sorry. David, one second. I will get to you, but I wanted to hear what Lucien had to say about that.
Well, our monument is just as historical, we would argue, and it's funny if people are arguing, if they're not arguing that we're not a religion, they're arguing that we are, so therefore we can't be included in this church-state debate.
But if the Ten Commandments if the Ten Commandments are seen as a bedrock of our civil law, and that's the justification that the Oklahoma lawmakers were putting forward for the Ten Commandments on the grounds, how could you make a similar assertion?
Well, I don't see that they can put assumptions on what our message is, and we feel that a bedrock of the United States, of is our American pluralism,
Yeah.
our equality in the eyes of the law, and that's the message we have. I mean, they've kind of said that, well, this isn't a religious monument; it's a historical monument, and they expect everybody to take that at face value. Mm-hmm. Well, our message is clearly also a historical, political message as well, and we feel it's well in line with the bedrock foundations of the United States and constitutional law.
Now, David, I'm saving the atheist for last here. Listening to this argument, listening to this all play out, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's really an interesting situation because we learn quite a lot from this dispute. One thing we learn is that the Christian right has learned to dance around the semantics that are necessary to try to avoid an Establishment Clause violation. They know that if they come right out and say that they are trying to promote their religion through government, that would be an Establishment Clause violation. So they concoct this notion that the Ten Commandments are essential to the heritage of this nation. In fact, I would bet most legislators probably can't even tell us what the Ten Commandments are. We know they say not to kill and not to commit adultery, but beyond that, they don't have much relevance at all to American law, unless American law has something to do with not worshiping idols and not coveting your neighbor's wife or house. It's that they truly are a religious document or a religious monument, and that's exactly what the Christian right in Oklahoma is trying to do. And the irony is, as a result of doing that, they may find themselves in bed with Satanists because, as the other speaker said, we are a pluralistic nation, and the government cannot favor one religion over another. So if they're going to allow the Christian right to be on the State House grounds, there's a very good argument that they should allow all religions, including this one here.
Well, David, Lucien, Professor Griffin, Professor Roy, I want to thank you all for joining us. I have a pair of pentagram cufflinks I bought in China, and I wore to my wedding in a synagogue, and I wish I wore them today. It would have been apt, it would have been fun. But hey, anyway, to find out more about this topic, check out the links in our resource well below.